Sienna Bacall stood by the window of her apartment in Genoa City, staring out at the gray afternoon sky. The past few weeks had been nothing short of a nightmare. Matt Clark had turned her life into a maze of fear, secrets, and dangerous decisions. For a long time, she had tried to stay quiet, hoping the chaos would fade if she simply stepped back. But Matt didn't work that way. He thrived on control, manipulation, and fear. That was why Sienna had finally decided she couldn't wait any longer. Across town at the Newman ranch, Nick Newman and Sharon Newman were sitting in the living room when they heard a knock at the door. Nick opened it and found Sienna standing there, her expression tense but determined. Sienna, Nick asked, surprised, "What's going on?" "I need to talk to both of you," she said. "It's about Matt." Nick and Sharon exchanged a worried glance and immediately invited her inside. Once seated, Sienna took a deep breath. "I've been doing some things behind the scenes," she admitted. Sharon frowned slightly. "What kind of things?" Sienna hesitated for a moment, then said, "I've been trying to track Matt down." Nick's expression hardened instantly. "You did what?" "I couldn't just sit around while he kept hurting people," Sienna said. "He's dangerous, Nick, and if no one stops him, he's going to keep coming back." Sharon leaned forward. "How exactly were you trying to track him?" Sienna folded her hands nervously. "Matt used to have people working for him. Not everyone was loyal to him forever. Some of them were actually closer to me than they were to him." Nick crossed his arms. "So you contacted them?" "Yes," Sienna said quietly. "I called in a few favors." Sharon looked stunned. "Sienna, that's incredibly risky." "I know," she replied, "but it worked." Nick and Sharon both looked at her sharply. "What do you mean?" Nick asked. "I think I know where Matt went." The room fell silent. Just then the door opened again and Noah Newman walked in. He stopped when he saw Sienna sitting there with his parents. "Sienna," Noah said, "what's going on?" Nick gestured toward her. "She has something to tell us." Noah sat down, his curiosity quickly turning to concern when he noticed how serious everyone looked. Sienna met his eyes. "I've been tracking Matt." Noah's face immediately tightened. "You what?" "I had to," she insisted. "No," Noah said firmly. "You didn't. You should have stayed out of this." "He's already dragged me into it," Sienna replied. "There's no staying out anymore." Noah shook his head. "Sienna, Matt is dangerous if he finds out you're looking for him." "That's why I had to be careful," she said. Nick leaned forward. "Did you find anything or not?" Sienna nodded slowly. "One of my contacts confirmed that Matt left town shortly after everything blew up here. At first, people thought he went to Los Angeles." "That's what we heard too," Sharon said. Sienna shook her head. "He didn't stay there." Nick's eyes narrowed. "Where did he go?" Sienna took a breath. "Las Vegas." The word hung in the air like a thunderclap. Nick leaned back in his chair, processing the information. "Vegas." Sharon looked equally stunned. "Are you sure?" "My source sounded pretty confident," Sienna said. "Apparently Matt was spotted there a few days ago." Noah rubbed his forehead. "This just keeps getting worse." Nick stood up and began packing the room. "Vegas," he repeated, "of all places." Sharon looked thoughtful. "Actually, that might make sense." Nick stopped packing. "What do you mean?" Sharon glanced toward the doorway thoughtfully. "There's someone who might know that city better than any of us." Nick immediately understood. "Adam." Later that evening, Nick and Sharon found Adam Newman at Crimson Lights sitting across from Chelsea Lawson. The two were deep in conversation when Nick approached the table. "Adam," Nick said. Adam looked up. "Nick." Chelsea noticed the tension immediately. "Something wrong?" Nick glanced briefly at Sharon before looking back at his brother. "We need your help." Adam raised an eyebrow. "That sounds serious." Sharon spoke next. "It's about Matt Clark." Adam's expression darkened instantly. "What about him?" Nick leaned closer. "We think he's in Las Vegas." Adam froze for just a second. Chelsea noticed. "What is it?" Adam leaned back in his chair slowly. "Vegas," he said quietly. Nick studied him carefully. "You used to live there." Adam smirked faintly. "That's one way of putting it." Chelsea folded her arms. "You mean when you were Spider?" Adam sighed. "Yeah, that life." For a time after he had been presumed dead, Adam had built an entirely different existence in Las Vegas under the alias Spider. He had made connections in places most people didn't even know existed. Nick leaned in again. "That's why we need your help." Adam stared at him. "You want me to track Matt?" Sharon nodded. "You know the city," she said. "You know how things work there." Adam was quiet for a moment, clearly weighing the request. Then he exhaled slowly. I might still have a few contacts. Nick's eyes lit up slightly, that's all we need. Chelsea looked worried. Adam, are you sure you want to get involved in something like this? Adam shrugged. Matt Clark has caused plenty of trouble already. If I can help stop him, maybe it's worth it. Nick extended his hand. So you'll help? Adam looked at his brother's hand for a moment before shaking it. Yeah, he said, let's find him. Over the next 2 days, Adam began making calls. Old numbers, old contacts, people who remembered Spider. Most of them were reluctant to talk at first, but Adam knew exactly how to ask the right questions. Late one night, his phone finally rang. The voice on the other end said something that made Adam's expression change instantly. Are you sure? Adam asked quietly. The man on the line confirmed it. Adam hung up and stared at the phone. He had what Nick needed. The next morning, Adam arrived at the ranch and found Nick waiting. Well, Nick asked immediately. Adam looked at him. I found him. Nick's eyes widened. Matt's in Vegas, Adam said, and I know exactly where he was last seen. Nick felt a rush of adrenaline. Then we're going. Adam gave a slow nod. Looks like the Newman brothers are taking a trip. Neither of them realized just how dangerous that trip was about to become. The jet engines roared as the Newman private plane cut through the night sky toward Las Vegas. Nick Newman sat quietly in his seat, staring out the window at the endless darkness below. Beside him, Adam Newman scrolled through messages on his phone, double-checking the information he had received from his old contact. Neither brother said much during the flight. They both knew this wasn't just another trip. Matt Clark had proven over and over again that he was unpredictable and dangerous. If they were going to confront him, they had to be ready for anything. Finally, Nick broke the silence. You're sure about this location? He asked. Adam looked up from his phone. My source was pretty clear, he said. Matt been hiding out in a private casino lounge off the strip. It's not exactly a place tourists stumble into. Nick nodded slowly. Sounds like the kind of place someone like Matt would choose. Adam leaned back in his seat. Vegas has a lot of shadows, he said. When I was living here as Spider, I learned just how easy it is to disappear if you know the right people. Nick glanced at him. You think Matt has protection? Probably, Adam replied. Guys like him don't travel alone for long. Nick's jaw tightened. That's fine, he said quietly. We're not leaving without him. A few hours later, the plane landed. Las Vegas was alive with bright lights, music, and endless crowds, but Nick and Adam weren't there for the excitement. They had one mission. Find Matt Clark. The brothers stepped out of the car in front of a sleek building tucked between two luxury casinos. The place looked normal enough from the outside, but Adam knew better. This is it, Adam said. Nick looked up at the building. Doesn't look like much. That's the point, Adam replied. They walked inside. The main floor looked like a quiet lounge, but Adam immediately noticed the security cameras and the guards standing discreetly in the corners. This wasn't just a casual gambling spot. Nick leaned closer to Adam. You see him? Adam shook his head slightly. No, but if my contact is right, he's upstairs. They approached the bar and Adam spoke quietly to the bartender. The man studied Adam for a moment, recognition flickering across his face. Spider, the bartender muttered. Adam gave a small smirk. Been a while. The bartender glanced around before nodding toward a hallway in the back. Second floor, private room. Nick and Adam exchanged a look. This was it. They walked down the hallway and climbed the stairs carefully. Every step felt heavier than the last. At the top of the stairs, they heard voices. Nick stopped and listened. One of them sounded very familiar. Matt Clark. Nick's fists clenched. Let's end this, he whispered. They pushed open the door. Matt was standing near a poker table, laughing with two men. The moment he saw Nick and Adam walk in, his smile slowly faded. Well, Matt said calmly, look who decided to show up. Nick stepped forward. It's over, Matt. Matt chuckled softly. You really think you can just walk into my territory and make demands? Adam crossed his arms. Actually, we're not here to make demands. Matt's eyes shifted toward Adam. Spider, he said, I heard rumors you were still alive. Adam smirked. Surprise. One of Matt's bodyguards moved forward, but Nick spoke before anything could happen. You don't want to do this, Nick said. Matt tilted his head. And why not? Because the police already know you're here, Adam said calmly. Matt's smile disappeared. You're bluffing. Adam shrugged. Maybe, maybe not. For a brief moment, the room was completely silent. Then suddenly Matt grabbed a chair and threw it toward the brothers. Chaos exploded instantly. Nick dodged the chair while Adam tackled one of the guards. The room turned into a whirlwind of punches and shouting. Matt tried to run for the door, but Nick grabbed him before he could escape. You're not going anywhere, Nick shouted. Matt struggled fiercely. You have no idea what you're messing with. Nick slammed him against the wall. No, Nick said through clenched teeth, you don't. Adam finished dealing with the other guard and quickly moved to help. Within minutes, the fight was over. Matt was pinned to the floor, breathing heavily. Sirens suddenly echoed outside the building. Matt's eyes widened. You actually called them, he muttered. Adam smiled slightly. Told you we might have. The police burst into the room moments later and quickly placed Matt in handcuffs. As officers led him away, Matt glared back at Nick and Adam. This isn't over, he warned. Nick watched silently as Matt disappeared down the hallway. But for the first time in weeks, he finally felt the weight lifting from his shoulders. Later that night, Nick and Adam stood outside the casino watching the flashing police lights fade into the distance. Nick exhaled slowly. Well, he said, that was intense. Adam chuckled. Vegas trips usually are. Nick turned toward his brother. I mean it, Adam, thanks. Adam shrugged. Don't mention it. Back in Genoa City the next day, Sharon Newman, Noah Newman, and Sienna Bacall were gathered at the ranch when Nick walked through the door. Sienna stood up immediately. Did you find him? Nick nodded. Oh yeah. Noah leaned forward anxiously. And? Nick smiled faintly. He's in custody. Sienna let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. It's finally over. Sharon wrapped her arms around Nick in relief. You did it. Nick shook his head. We all did. Sienna looked down for a moment, still processing everything that had happened. For weeks, she had lived in fear of Matt Clark and what he might do next. Now that chapter was finally closed. Outside the ranch, the sun was beginning to set over Genoa City, casting a warm glow across the quiet landscape. For the first time in a long time, things felt peaceful again.